So, how much time do we have?
Yeah. Well,
how much time did I talk?
Now it's 8:45.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
We are actually scheduled until 9 because we rent this room. We can stay maybe until 9:15 something. If you have any questions, you can ask Ethan.
You had a question.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of questions, but I haven't quite.
I'm not sure if I will have all of the answers. That's part of what we're doing here.
Okay,
We're trying to make questions and
just
answers.
simple questions now, and then later we can have a pre-discussion if you have more like.
All right. So what you were saying is that I just want to get straight what exactly you were saying. The kind of tie that binds all these 5 different
Well,
fields.
I guess the tie would be consciousness itself. I mean, if you look at it from a physics point of view, you know, maybe classic physics point of view, you might not find any. I mean, that would be a good question for Bendit. You might not. Actually, that was the first question that I asked Bendit. Right? It was a horrible question. What about metaphysics in physics? Something like that. You're not going to see the things that bring them together. If you're I can't say this for sure, but if you hold with one religion and what your religion teaches is meditation and doesn't teach anything else, then you do the meditation and that's going to be your thing. If you happen to be a spiritualist, you know, whatever kind of healer kind of thing, you might think about your dreams and that would be it. Or if you're a philosopher, it might be metaphysics and ethics and stuff like that. I'm just, you know, in my search for finding out these questions of why am I here and what really exists and learning more and more, I've just said, oh, wow, so at the basis of everything is consciousness, and physics comes from consciousness. Physics is built out of our search for consciousness. Metaphysics is built out of our search for that. Psychedelic states are built from our search for consciousness, as well as dreaming and meditation. They're all different ways of searching for what's the base.
Any more questions?
More questions?
The base is consciousness.
The base of everything, all matter, everything is consciousness. More questions? Got a few more minutes for questions. Don't be afraid.
If nobody else.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you talked about Revelation and Moses and the burning bush. And you said that that is actually a psychedelic state. So that, to me, makes a very big argument or claim that Revelation is a psychedelic state.
Well, I don't mean...
How do you define psychedelic state?
Right. Well, I said that was a naturally occurring psychedelic state, as opposed to one where you actively seek it out and ingest something.
Right.
Psychedelic state, I should have written down a Webster dictionary definition of it, but it's basically just a different view on what we would classically consider to be this reality.
The mainstream accepted version of reality.
Yeah, that burning bushes usually don't talk, kind of thing. That, you know, so...
Because a schizophrenic state would be a reality where bushes.
Sure. I agree. Well, you know, a lot of this comes down to what words do you want to call these different things. I mean, I would say that schizophrenia in what is a Western word to describe shamanism.
Right.
I would say that you know, naturally occurring psychedelic states are, you know, what we would call like revelation or some sort of, you know, spiritual breakthrough where the person sees God, talks to God, sees angels, you know, even being abducted by aliens. in Rick Strassman's book, he says that there are certain times in a person's life where the pineal gland is usually very protected. It's extremely protected from any outside source, but there are times when it can be stressed to the point where it will actually produce lots of DMT, such as when you're dying or being born. The brain starts producing DMT at 49 days after conception, and goes on producing it all through your life. And then right when you die, it pumps it out full force. You blast off. More questions?
After birth?
Sorry?
How many days after birth?
49.
Like after every day? You have
After conception, after conception, so after after the sperm goes in. I mean, do we want to go back to that? After the sperm goes into the egg,
Okay.
that's when the time starts. So 49 days after that, the pineal gland starts producing DMT.
Of the mother.
So the mother is still producing DMT,
Right.
but then the baby starts producing DMT.
No, there is no baby still.
Well, the little teeny
The little tiny
thing.
gland.
The little pineal gland inside of the little baby thing inside of the mother starts producing DMT.
I have one really quick question, easy question. So is DMT a Schedule 1 drug in Taiwan?
Yes.
It is.
Class A,
Class A.
I think.
It's Class A.
Super illegal, like heroin. It is. I mean, that's the funny thing, all of these laws have been, that have been created to that put the psychedelic compounds into the Schedule 1 or Class A with other narcotics is just to keep us from exploring our own minds,
Okay, any more questions?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a question about the beginning physics. You said that consciousness is like the smallest part. The smallest thing that exists, and from there, if we can prove that, we can see that everything's interconnected or whatever. And you said that someone proved that. That has been proven.
Well, no,
Is that true?
not exactly. No, I said they're on the brink of proving it. These people believe, I mean, if you ask Dr. Thomas Campbell, he's going to say, yeah, I got my theory of everything. But it's my theory of everything. Maybe you have to find your own. If you ask...
So that's not repeatable scientific experiment.
Well, Thomas Campbell was interesting. He was doing, he did research with this guy Bob Monroe for 20 years on healing and travel, astral travel, all kinds of stuff with other universes and all kinds of stuff. It's totally different. But if you take people like John Hagelin and William Tiller, who are classic physicists, theoretical physicists, these people are very in on the string theory kind of stuff. I don't like to think about it as string theory because I think of a string. And you're like, well, a string is a string. I can pull a string apart and look inside the string. I can chop the string up into pieces. But basically string theory is one way of describing a unified field. Where you say you go all the way down on the branch through gravity, all the way down through electro and magnetism to electromagnetism, and you come all the way down and all the way down through the strong force and the weak force and the nuclear forces and whatever radiation you get down, all this stuff, and it's very basic. It's not a particle. It's not an actual thing that you can small. It's not any small thing. Basically, at that point, the way they describe it is it dissolves, but it's not really dissolving. It just, it's like if you looked hard enough into something and you got small enough, and then you sort of, you dip your head down in there, and then it's like the whole ocean. It's everything. It's everywhere. They started doing research on I'm not going to get the name right, but how particles can be connected even if they're far apart, which is, what's that called? Where particles are, say, two electrons or protons or photons are intertwined. Something about it being intertwined. They're connected, but even if they're very far apart, they can be miles apart. You do something to one, and the other one has the same effects.
So like dark matter?
It's not dark matter. I can't remember. There's a specific name for it.
Entanglement.
Entanglement. That's right.
Entanglement.
Okay. More questions?
There's a question. What is the entangled quantum?
It's a question from the first of the quantum theory. Is Einstein and the other guys they just go against the theory of quantum theory because Born he say he wanted to give a theory of quantum. So Einstein asked the question: if the particle they go far, two particles go far away, then suddenly if you detected one of the particle, then you will know the other particle's information, and the speed is more than the speed of light. So it's very, very strange because the electricity.
Right. That's the whole idea. You think if they're further than, let's say, well, it doesn't matter how far away they are. You just pick something random like a light year. Well, you would say that that's the distance that light travels in a year. But somehow they called it kind of spooky. How if you measure one